how are you doing? This is Pastor Cheryl. Remember, we are doing a Bible study, and we are going through the book of John. We're up to John 19, verse 25, when Jesus makes provisions for his mother. We're going through just one little section at a time and leaving room for discussion and the sections below. Standing by the cross of Jesus were his mother's sister, Mary, the wife of Clopas, and Mary Magdalene. When Jesus saw his mother and the disciple he loved standing there, he said to his mother, "Woman, this is your son." Then he said to the disciple, "Here is your mother." And from that hour, the disciple took her into his home. Jesus was a good son, and make sure that his mother was taken care of. After this, when Jesus knew that everything was now finished, that the scripture might be fulfilled, he said, "I'm thirsty." A jar full of sour wine was sitting there, so that they fixed a sponge full of sour wine in a hyssop branch and held it up to his mouth. When Jesus had received the sour wine, he said, "It is finished." Then bowing his head, he gave up the spirit, or his spirit. If you remember, Jesus had said that no one would kill him. The only way that he would die is if he gave up his ghost himself. That no one could kill him without him giving up his ghost. And we went through that a couple weeks ago. Verse 31. Since it was preparation day, the Jews did not want the bodies to remain on the cross on the Sabbath, for the Sabbath was a special day. They requested that Pilate have their men's legs broken so that their bodies be taken away. So the soldiers came and broke the legs of the first man and of the other one who had been crucified with him. Then they came to Jesus. They did not break his legs, since they saw that he was already dead. But one of the soldiers pierced his side with a spear, and at once the blood and water came out. He who saw this had testified, that you may also believe. His testimony is true, and he knows he is telling the truth. For these things happened so that the scripture would be fulfilled. Then in bold letters it says, "Not one of his bones will be broken." That was one of the scriptures that was fulfilled. Also another scripture says, "They will look at the one they pierced." We will stop there and go on tomorrow, and we should have a little discussion about this. If you remember, Jesus said before they captured him, he did say that things would happen to his believers. That things would happen to Christians. And they have in the past. Like our missionaries. You hear stuff about, missionaries in China being imprisoned for many, many years, their whole lives. You hear of things happening to missionaries, clergy people, and Christians in North Korea. I guess they killed them there. There's other countries that they kill or imprison Christians. No reason at all. Remember, Jesus said, no reason at all. No real reason. It's just kind of a prejudice. There's no real reason for any kind of a prejudice. And so I thought that was important to comment on that. that there was, things were done to Christians in the past and his disciples. All of them were killed, some horrific death, something horrible, except John. John was just exiled on the island of Patmos. And he died of an old age, but he was exiled out there. And so he worked for the church with letters, going back and forth, which we have them today. I mean, they're in here. That was his work on the island of Patmos, was writing down the story. And after all, he was getting old, so there had to be some record of it. And we will go through the Synoptic Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, but we'll just touch mostly on Matthew, because Matthew has both Mark and Luke in it. And I have a Synoptic Gospels Bible here from when I was a religion major at St. Ambrose College. And also the same book for seminary. I had to retake the class when I got to seminary. And so I'll show you how the stories will be overlapping and similar, and what one has the other one doesn't have, and vice versa. Bits and pieces of stories. And so I enjoy my Synoptic Gospels book. I pull it out for my congregation and read it. They enjoy seeing that. And so I'm trying to think of a story that would kind of fit with this. And I'm not thinking of anything that would really fit at this point. And except, we had discussed what the city of Davenport did to the road going to our chapel. The road going on up to the chapel, big cross. They just cut off the road. They cut off the road to a chapel, an outdoor chapel, to a cross. That is a big statement by the city of Davenport of how they feel about Jesus, about faith, about what Jesus taught. They're going to erase the road to the cross. Yeah, that's a big statement from the city of Davenport. So, anyway, keep all of that in prayer, because we're trying to get the road put back in. And there's just, Davenport is so criminal. That city is just, it's criminal. When you go in there and you get a house and you think it's going to be okay, you start discovering there's teenagers shooting each other and running up and down the street shooting each other, and driving cars and shooting each other's cars, and drugs and whatever. It's just like, Davenport's something else. But and they could use a cross, right? They need a cross, so the city cuts the road off going to the cross. People still walk down that road. They remember that road was there 100 years, though. Still walk along it. And then we got this crazy neighbor who thinks he owns part of the road and comes out of the house and he screams at people. And he calls the cops on him. And the guy's out of his mind, So, our church members and people that frequent the chapel are discriminated against for no reason at all. No reason. Other than they're just there. They're just there. So anyway, please keep that in prayer. We're praying the guy out of that. Doesn't live in the house. He uses it for storage for his business. But when he's there, he harasses us. Because our people are old and disabled And then we have some minority groups in there because, that is an old black neighborhood. That's what's going on. And so, yes, and so we will finish up later, and I will see you. Bye-bye.